Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are watching this out there on the World Wide Web. This is Jeremy Geelan for SYS-CON TV. I am here with Kevin Brown, CEO of Coraid, which means we must be talking not just cloud, but more importantly, storage. The storage part, Kevin, of this whole cloud ecosystem, this whole disruption, is the least understood, I think, but one of the most exciting. And Coraid is sitting right on the sweet spot of that. Maybe you could fill people in on the bigger picture and where Coraid sits within it.
Well, great to be here. Thank you, Jeremy. So if you look at what's happening today, cloud is not so much about a place, it's about a way of delivering and handling these very dynamic, very large-scale computing environments. And so it transformed the server market, and you went from big iron to x86, and virtualization came in. That was the headline on the last decade. Networking is now being transformed with commodity hardware, commodity switches, and software-defined networking. Storage has been the last one to modernize. It's been big iron, big expensive stuff, and data has been growing meanwhile about 50% per year compounded. And in many of our customers,
At least.
Yeah. That's globally. In many of our customers, it's more than doubling. So what worked at 1 and 2 starts to stretch at 4 and 8. Yeah. When you get to 16, 32, 64, forget it. And so what's happening is that people are realizing they need to look a lot more like the web scale players like Google, Amazon, Facebook, but they need to combine that with enterprise class features and performance. And that's really what the end game for enterprise IT looks like, is that best of breed of both. And so the storage layer is a $30 billion market that is really ripe for modernization there.
And this notion of scale out, how do you explain that to people?
So, scale up is when you have a big box and then you fill it up and you have to bring in a forklift to then buy the next bigger box and then you fill it up. And if your data is growing slow, that worked okay in the past. Databases like Oracle were usually measured in gigabytes or terabytes. Now you have things measured in petabytes going to exabytes, and so you can't fit that in one box. And even if you could, it'd be very expensive. Right. So what you want to do is you want to have a lot of small Lego building blocks that allow you to keep adding and growing, and growth can be very unpredictable. And so you need to have a system that's very inexpensive and easy to expand. It's very elastic. And so you need that both at the computing layer, but you also need a networking layer around that can be very stretchy and can handle all of that change, and you can carve it up to handle the different tenants that might be using that infrastructure.
And I know, because I hear, the buzz from the bees is that, Coraid is solving this in a way that not too many others are doing. Is anyone else doing it?
There's plenty of people that are trying to deliver more cloud-like technology. They're trying to move to more scale-out designs, but there are very few people that have put together the pieces to go deliver what Amazon does, go deliver what Google is doing. And there's really two fundamental pieces. You need a scale-out architecture that is very easy to keep expanding, and needs to take advantage of flash technologies for speed, right. Needs to handle many petabytes. You need to really democratize both the performance and the capacity so that you can get your arms around these jobs. So the scale-out architecture is very tricky to get right, and there's very few companies that are doing a good job of that. You have to combine that with the layer above that can program all of that to turn it into Amazon. So with one click, you can go and set up all the pieces according to a recipe or a policy so that you can then meet the application needs for user 1, 2, or 3, or 10,000. And so how do you put those two together? That's something that's very unique, and we've been investing in for about 3 years. Our bet was that we didn't want to just add vitamins to the old storage boxes and make them a little bit better, a little bit more efficient. We wanted to jump to where, skate to where the puck was going, if you will, so that when people really arrived here with these big data loads, with these big, fast-moving cloud sort of architectures, whether it's in the public or the private arena, that we'd have something that looked like Google and Amazon and Facebook, but had all those enterprise-class features, and we could make it very easy for their users to consume it.
Let's just quickly look at the flip side of that, Kevin. If somebody doesn't understand that they need to move to be like an Amazon, like a Google, what is going to happen to them?
Well, what we're seeing is that with data growing, people are then having to forklift out and buy the bigger and bigger and bigger box, and eventually it fills up, or they have to tell people, no, we can't take on that project.
We're out of space.
And what happens is then people then get their credit card out and they go to Amazon. Right, and they outsource themselves. Right. So what's happening is that whether or not IT makes the decision, it's going to happen. So the smart IT teams realize that they need to be on this wave or in front of it, and they need to figure out how do you bring that enterprise class performance, millions of IOPS or petabytes of storage. How do you bring all of the heavy duty infrastructure? It's their job to deliver, but make it consumable in a way that's much more cloud-like. That agenda is being set today 2013 is the year I think that a lot of IT teams wake up and realize that they need to get to that quick or they're going to be out of a job.
Let me end with a question, which is not my question, but your question. What should the CEO watching this say to his guys to check that they are aligned with the future you're talking about from this storage perspective? What's the question he should ask?
Well, this is about competitiveness. This is about how does our business use information. So if your business doesn't really need information and it's not strategic, then it's not that big of a deal. If you're in a business where data is very strategic and central to how do you innovate, how do you deliver services, this is now a fundamental ingredient of are you going to win or lose? And so it's not just a cost center for how do we drive cost out of our storage or out of our networking. It's really how do I enable all of the genius of our employees? How do we deliver those services to the end users? And so the question that's being asked is how do we get the speed that our competitors have on the cloud, and how do we do that at our scale as a Fortune 500 company, and how do we take advantage of all of the data and the experience that we have in this company and deliver it at that kind of speed?
There you are. There's an inside track from the CEO of Coraid, no less. Kevin Brown, thank you so much for joining us here in the Times Square studio, Kevin, and thank you for watching out there on the World Wide Web.
Great to be here. Thank you.